board. We are also going to go over some tips and tricks, so just feel free to follow along. And here is an estimated schedule of how everything is going to be broken down today. We're going to start off with some introduction, going to learn a little bit more about us, the purpose of this workshop, and why a vision board is important. We're going to be following up with a quiz, a fun little session just to get your ideas generated and just to get the creative juices flowing. We're going to learn more about how to define your vision, why that's important. And then Novia will guide us through a step-by-step mood board creation. So during that time, you'll actually be following alongside with her on how to build a mood board, right? So that's why we ask for your Canva to be open, Pinterest, any sources, like online sources that you typically like to use, whether that's Google, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, perhaps. So make sure to get all those resources open so that you can build your own mood board alongside with her. She'll show you exactly how to do that. And that will be more of a general mood board, not so much the details, but more of a general mood board. And then we're gonna follow up with some cost saving tips and how to communicate with your vendors. And then ending it off with a wrap-up session with a Q&A and your next steps. Okay, perfect. So let's get started. A little bit more about us. So our journey began almost 8 years ago with Rad Photo Booth when we started a photo booth company. And within a year, our passion for all things wedding quickly grew. So from there, we kind of expanded more onto full wedding planning and design. And throughout the years, we've had the absolute privilege of coaching numerous interns, as well as interacting with countless of clients. And throughout our experience with this, we have observed, the consistency in the questions and the pains that our couples has experienced in terms of their wedding planning. And kind of like the struggles on how to start their wedding planning process. So we've realized the importance of having a vision board in the wedding planning process and how that plays a role in being the foundation to your wedding planning process. So that's why we have this privilege of hosting this workshop, and we really want to be able to empower you with all the right resources to make your wedding planning a little bit more easier on your end and a little less stress-free. Okay. Okay, now let's go over the purpose of this workshop. So the purpose of this workshop is three main purposes. First and foremost is just to get you started and reducing your overwhelm. So essentially, for some people, wedding planning is kind of like that task where it seems so complicated and it starts to get overwhelming in a way where you continue to put it off until days and weeks pass. And we just want to be that motivator for you. We want you to get started, and we want you to realize how fun it is to actually be part of that wedding planning journey. Of course, there are important decisions to make, but if you start off with something a little bit more simpler and a little bit more on the creative side, then you'll come to realize that everything will flow naturally, right? So first purpose is to just get you started. And then we want you to be able to generate ideas with tools and templates. So we're going to be providing this to you. We're going to provide you with the right tools just to, make your pathway to your wedding planning a little bit more narrower and a little bit more simpler as well. And lastly, we want you to understand the usual process with vendors, as well as considering some cost-saving tips. So generally, we want to help you make better decisions and understand how it is to communicate with vendors using a visual mood board. So at the end of this class, you should have a base mood board and a direction of your wedding vision, and you'll be able to also use certain tools efficiently and have a much clearer vision in terms of your wedding planning. Okay. big question on why this workshop is important and why you should have a mood board. So here you can see the usual process of how we usually build mood boards for our clients, right? So right here is where we're at, the client's vision board. This is what we're going to be helping you create today. And this is the first step, really. And once you have a vision board, generally you will use this vision board to communicate with your vendors. And, as much as we want to minimize the amount of parties involved in our special day, you will have to interact with multiple vendors. Vendors being like, the vendors of your venue, photography, videography, cake vendor, decorator, wedding planning. So all those vendors need to understand the vision that you have in your head. And a way to organize all those ideas is to create a vision board. And then once you communicate with your vendors, you ideally want them to be able to work on the technical sides, right? That's their job, is to ensure that the technical side is handled for you. They may propose another mood board that matches yours. And then our ultimate goal is for you to have your wedding day reflect what you initially envisioned or what you kind of modified along the way. So this is the typical process of how our client interactions are and why it's so important to have that vision board from the very beginning. Okay. So let's get your creative juices flowing. And before we get into the nitty-gritty details, we want to have some playtime with all of you. We want to be able to ask you a couple questions and just understand where everyone's head is at. And this quiz, so we're going to go into a quiz. We want to help you visualize your wedding. And on your part, we want you to type up your preferences based on the questions that we're going to ask on the chat box, and let's just have some fun. Okay, ready? So the first question for all of you guys here, just chat in the chat box or type up your answers. We want you to pick a season. So all the seasons are here: spring, summer, fall, winter. Let us know which season do you envision having your wedding if you don't have a set date yet, or if you already chose a date, which season is it being held in? Novia, Kyla, are you guys getting some interesting answers?
Yeah, I think we're seeing summer the most.
Mm.
Patricia, that who selected fall.
Oh.
And yeah,
And
I think spring and fall is more popular.
yeah, I guess those are the high peak season, right? For a wedding. It's the wedding season, summertime.
Yeah, but I think in Canada in general, fall season is quite popular as well since the leaves are so many different colors and it's very pretty.
That's true. It's like a palette in nature.
Hmm.
It's a canvas. Okay. Let me know when everyone submitted their answers. Do we have a general idea?
I think we have most people's answer.
Okay, amazing. So you might be wondering what your answer says about you. So ready? Let's take a look at what it reveals. Color palette. So this is the popular color palette based on the season of your choice. Summer typically incorporates like the fun and bright colors, while fall might have a more deeper hue, winter with the neutral colors. So these are certain color palettes that you might want to screenshot this just so that you can have it for reference later. But perhaps here are some ideas that you can kind of just get started with. Okay, give you 1 second to screenshot. And then let's go into our next question. Okay, now you have to pick an element. It might be a random question, but we want you to pick between the four: air, earth, fire, water. Are we getting some answers?
Yeah, I think we're getting
different ones this time.
Oh,
Earth.
is there one that's kind of leading?
Earth. Earth. Yeah, I think I'm seeing more Earth.
Earth. I wonder what words come to mind. Probably nature. Nature when you think of Earth.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think just think about colors for each element.
Yeah, or maybe even the emotions you feel, right? Like with water, just kind of like the calming, soothing vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are we ready to reveal what this says about them? Ready? Drum. Ta-da! Your ideal venue based on the element of your choice. So, based on your preference, this might say a little bit more about where you envision hosting your wedding. So, if you chose air, you might like a bit more high ceiling with large windows. We've chosen Hotel X here as an example. They have such a beautiful room in their ground floor. And then Earth, you might envision having an outdoor ceremony or even a tented reception, perhaps, just to be surrounded by nature. Here is Granite Club. And then Fire, if you've chosen Fire, you might sorry, I'm just admitting some people. You might want a more intimate wedding. So here we have micro wedding, Bellamy Loft. Bellamy Loft hosts up to 100 guests. So it is more for intimate weddings. And then if you've chosen water, you might envision a lakefront venue. So having that soothing, calming presence in your wedding day, just choosing that venue is an important factor in setting the mood for your special day. Okay. Last question for all of you. We want you to pick an era. We have 4 choices here. I mean, feel free to pick 2 if you like 2 eras, but let's see what everybody else preferences.
That money you be seeing me with on Instagrams, that be fake money, man. That prop money. This is not my money, girl.
Excuses for the little interruption, but we are getting some answers on Patricia had asked where the tents are. Oh, the tents, sorry, question mark. It's more like 2010 and above. The Instagram era.
Sorry, I'm just gonna reshare my screen.
But we are getting a lot of the 90s, some 70s, 80s as well.
90.
The thousands, but it's
I
nice
think
to
90s is winning.
90s? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be hard for others to understand. How does this relate to wedding planning? I wonder if there's guesses though.
Yeah, any guesses that what this will be related to?
Yeah, what would this say and how does this relate to your wedding planning? Okay, do we have most answers? Are we ready to reveal the importance?
guesses have come into the chat. Style of your vibe, decorating, signage, related to the core. These are really good guesses.
Yeah, no, those are good guesses. I feel like you guys are understanding why we're asking these questions. Okay,
Right.
be ready. Let's see what this says. Okay, there you go. So based on your preference of your era, it is kind of tells you a little bit more about your wedding theme. Now, you may or may not agree with these suggestions, but again, this is just a fun quiz to get your ideas generated. So if you chose 70s to 80s, you might want something that's a little bit more rustic theme. With the 90s, this is the popular one. We're thinking more industrial chic, or maybe even like Great Gatsby theme. 2000s, more of a garden, timeless essence, and then modern minimalist, as most people might have seen if you're browsing through Pinterest or social media. Nowadays, it's very popular to have that minimalist, black and white theme with baby's breath and roses. So we've kind of started covering some of the themes that we're going to be seeing today. And essentially, this was just a fun quiz, a fun game to get your thoughts rolling. And it's not exactly accurate again. But the purpose of this quiz is to build up some of your ideas on how to define your wedding vision. And to further guide you, we're going to talk about how would you actually define your wedding vision and why is it the first step in your wedding planning. So step one, defining your vision. Now, when you're defining your vision, it is finding the recipe, right, to your wedding planning. It's kind of like baking a cake in a way. It means understanding who you are as a couple. So it starts with you and your fiance. And then you have to ask questions like, what flavors or moments make your relationship special? And how exactly would you picture your perfect day? What elements come to mind? So right here, we actually have a questionnaire that is kind of more of a guide for you to go through, browse, and see, kind of answer these questions to get you started. So how did you meet? Hobbies and interests? What cuisine do you guys both enjoy? And let's say you prefer traveling together. This might lead you to come up with an idea of incorporating travel elements. So this is kind of how we want you to connect the two. And then secondly, you would want to describe your ideal wedding. So what that essentially means is, how do you want to feel on your big day? What kind of mood and tone do you want to set out? How do you want your guests to feel, right? Of course, it's your big day. So most importantly, it's how you envision it. But you want to try and be specific and personal, because at the end of the day, you want your day to reflect your unique love story. So we have as well some questionnaire here that you can use as a reference, and just to kind of get your ideas flowing. This also touches on some of the questions that we asked during the quiz, and also incorporating important aspects like cultural, religious traditions, or the type of music you want to play. So that's a questionnaire for you. And here, I'm going to be showing some real life weddings that we've done under Vintage Bash and Bellamy Loft, just so you can kind of use these inspiration, and hopefully you'll find a theme that resonates with you. So we have a clean and minimalist vibe. Here's one that we did at Bellamy Loft with like an enchanted classic garden theme. Here we have like a dark and moody feel. So these are hosted in venues in the GTA. So we have some at York Mills Gallery, Olds Mill, and Eglinton Grand, and then timeless and chic. This is my personal favorite just because I love light blue. So I love a garden look, and hopefully these are kind of telling you what you like, what you don't like, but here are some more ideas. Okay, so accent elements and textures are also an important aspect in defining your vision. And this is more in the small details. So what I mean by that is, let's say over here, you can see that although this is a rustic theme, just because there's that wooden element, this runner here, this chiffon runner, does add that texture onto the table, which really adds a character to the table and brings more life to it, because you have that wooden base and then you have this romantic runner cascading through it. So now you can kind of understand there's the romantic and rustic theme And then you can also incorporate, let's say you're going for a more vintage and rustic vibe, you can incorporate that by using a gold ornate mirror to welcome your guests. So it's really using textures like that to incorporate the themes, or floating candles in glasses to light up the room in a romantic setting. So those are some ideas, as well as here are some more, is using textures in your elements such as your cake. So really communicating with your cake vendor how you envision your wedding cake, if you are going to opt in to have a wedding cake. I know some people prefer cupcakes or other methods of sweets. But again, you can use the small details like the candles, right? Incorporating an accent color in your candles. Let's say you choose gray or taupe, and that's not a primary color, but more of a secondary color. So that's how you can incorporate those colors. Speaking of colors, perfect. So we're gonna merge into selecting your color palette. So color palette, choosing the right color palette really does set the visual tone for your entire wedding. I'm not sure if everybody kind of understands how critical it is to have a set color palette, because not only does it play a vital role in, let's say, your decor or your bridesmaids dresses, but also your invitation, your floral arrangements, and it will be a main factor in how you can have a cohesive look. So it's in terms of choosing or selecting your color palette, whether you have an idea or you have no idea, I would definitely recommend going into Pinterest and using the search function. Just searching up wedding color palette is very, very easy tool to use, because it generates, color palettes in a way where if you've never done this, you'll kind of be amazed, just as I was, because they showcase it in such a way that you haven't really envisioned it before. So it's really a great tool. And you can also go through like a process of elimination of what you prefer versus what you might not like. So as you're doing that, make sure to consider your season. So consider the season, what's popular, what is suitable for when you're hosting your wedding. Is bright colors suitable for a winter wedding? It may not be traditional, but if you're bold, I think that says a lot about you guys as a couple. So, but it is important to consider the season and also your venue colors. So, in terms of your venue colors, in case there are specific colors that are incorporated into your venue, you don't necessarily want to clash with that. A lot of the time, our clients really do consider what colors are in the venue. Let's say there's gold light fixtures into the venue, then you might want to make gold your accent color. So it's really as simple as something like that. And it's also kind of, it helps you in a way pick certain colors. So don't forget to consider your venue colors. Alrighty. Just before we get into step 2, feel free to ask any questions that you may have in the chat box. We're gonna go into the meat of this workshop, which is building your mood board, and Novia will be guiding you guys through a step-by-step process. Again, during that, I think later on in about like 5 minutes or so, you guys will be doing a mood board with her. So ensure that as she goes through it, you're also going through it. Okay, I will monitor the chat box now while Novia takes over.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. While I do that, feel free to open your Pinterest or Canva. Give me one moment. I have also sent over a pre-made mood board as well as the mood board template in the chat. So you can open there and follow along with the template that we have. Perfect. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. Okay, so let's get us started. Basically, when building a mood board, a key element is definitely gathering the images. Pinterest is usually my go-to, just because they have so many selection and their algorithm is also very user-friendly when it comes to looking for similar images. And when you start your mood board, we do have a more summary mood board template as well as a detailed mood board. Today we'll create the summary mood board together, and then you'll be able to get into the detailed mood board later on. But feel free to definitely keep in mind, be flexible. The idea do change for any of our 2025 or 2026 brides. While you're planning, your idea might change, which is okay. You can always modify the mood board along the way as well. So this is a example of a summary mood board. Basically, it's kind of a general summary of each element that's the key element to your wedding. So the overall color palette, the overall vibe, if it's romantic, garden style, maybe if you want to incorporate some photos of your makeup and your bridesmaids dresses. This is a chance for you to put everything together just to see if it's cohesive. You can also take a look at the sample themes that we have mentioned earlier, as well as the elements that we will be talking about. So the first link that I send over of the mood board summary has lots of pre-made mood board that you can incorporate into your own mood board. These are some of the accent element and texture keyword that you can use when searching the picture that matches your overall theme. So maybe wooden, or if you have a specific flower that you like, orchids, peonies, any metal elements like copper, gold, silver, and texture elements as well, lace, satin, matte. These can all be incorporated into the table setting as well as even your outfit for the day. And then candle elements, what type of candle you like. There's lots of different words for these as well. So floating candles are the ones that it can float on water, and then pillar candles are the thicker candles that you see often in clear cylinders. Taper candle, it's what you see in the picture here, these long skinny candles, and then votive candles are smaller. The sand wax candle is more newer concept. That one you might be seeing in some inspiration photos of candle in sand that you can just put a wick in the sand to have the candle all night. So these are some elements that you can think about. And then the color palettes that we talked about earlier as well. So specific colors for specific season, and then colors that work well together. So these peach, orange colors that usually work well, or you can do contrasting color as well, the coral and teal, something like this. This is also included in our mood board summary. So this is the pre-made wedding mood board. When you click here, it will show you the link, which is the same link that I sent in the chat as well. So this is how the mood board will look like. We already have pre-created few selections that are popular that we see often: blush and peach, modern black and white. So these photos, if there's any specific photo that you like to use, you can always copy this mood board when you're custom making yours. I'll just show you how to do that. So when you when you're in the gallery section, you can copy the page and just input it in your mood board as a full page. So when you paste it, you'll have the full page here. So if there's any element of the mood board that you would like to use, you can just simply drag the photo into your custom mood board like this. Any questions so far? How is the speed? Am I going too fast? Let us know.
I just want to ensure that everyone saw the message on the chat box. All the links were sent there, and we will also be sending the resources via email within the next couple of days. But just for the purpose of this workshop, please open up the links that were sent in the chat box. And just continue to let us know if you are unable to do so. But so far, the speed is great for me, Novia. But if everybody else has any specific requests, let us know.
Yeah, just let me know if you have additional questions, and if I'm going too fast, let me know as well. So I'll be showing you how to create a summary mood board first. So my personal kind of imagined wedding colors are very summery. I like summer season, and I really like warm tone colors. So I had in mind a citrus wedding that's inspired by oranges, lemons, grapefruits. So citrus will be my keyword. The vibe and feel that we're going is very bright and summery. I'll put citrus here as well. The color palette will be yellow, orange, maybe light pink or coral, just to transition the two color. And then if you have any special notes, you can also put it here as well. So the colors here, we'll get into this a bit later. I wanted to show you how to incorporate colors from the pictures that you selected. So we have few keywords here: bride, groom, florals, bridesmaids, groomsmen, and guests. These are keywords that you can use when you're searching for the picture. So on Pinterest, when I search for citrus, sorry guys, I am a little dyslexic. Citrus wedding. Oh boy. So something similar to overall palette like this is what I'm looking for. So once you have a general color palette, you can start with each of the keywords. Let's start with wedding bride. So I think overall dress and vibe that I'm looking is very warm and cozy. Sometimes it will send you to a page of the where you can purchase the wedding, which is a good source as well. But usually I recommend to use Google when searching for the specific item. But you can basically copy the image and then bring it back to Canva and paste it. When you paste it, just drag it into the mood board. And then when you double click it, you'll be able to adjust the photo anyway. You can make it a little bit smaller or bigger based on your preference. Something like this. And then let's see, bright, wedding, groom, for the groom suits. So for the groom, I had something in mind similar to this, a little bit brighter, more summery, less traditional compared to the usual black and white. I think it matches the color palette quite well. So paste it back in the Canva link and then adjust it slightly. Now looking into the floral, I think we can search bright summer floral. When you're searching, always, instead of doing just bright summer floral, you can always put wedding at the end to make your searches more specific for wedding. So colors like this, these are perfect. These are the exact color that I had in mind: orange, yellow, coral, pink. So copy the image, bring it back. Right. Now, our next keyword is bridesmaids and groomsmen. You can always incorporate their clothing with your overall theme as well. So citrus wedding, bridesmaids. Let's see if there's any inspiration. I think this one is perfect. So for bridesmaids dresses, it doesn't have to be uniform all the time. They could select their own dress, have different color and pattern if your overall theme is more colorful. I think at the end of the day, for the bridesmaids, it should also be something that's comfortable for them. So whenever they select their own style, they will probably know what fits them best the most. So I usually encourage brides to tell their bridesmaids to choose something that they like. So citrus wedding, groomsmen. For the groomsmen, I was thinking something similar with the groom suit. So one good thing about Pinterest is they have these photos underneath that are basically generated based on the photo that you selected, something similar to it. You can also use the little search icon here on the photo and then select a portion in the image that you would like to duplicate. And that will generate images that are very similar to the choices. So here, this is actually a very good example. Basically, I'm guessing that this person is a groomsman and it's still complementing the groom's suit, but for the groom to stand out a bit more, they have a bit color difference. So something like this. Right. Now you can also look into what you should suggest your guests to wear. So for guests in the invitation, you can always, if you don't want to be too specific, you can at least let them know what color palette your wedding will be, and then they can dress accordingly. So let's see, guest attire. Think something like this or even this fits the overall color palette very well. I've seen some of the digital invitation have reference photo area as well. Those are very cool. That way your guests can have a visual reference for the overall palette. So once you have everything gathered, it's always nice to zoom out a little bit just to see if the overall colors are cohesive. If they are, make sure to remember to customize the mood board to yours as well. And then for the color choices here, once you have these images generated, when you click the color icon and then click color here, when you scroll down a little bit, it has photo colors. So Canva actually automatically generates photo colors that are basically elements from the existing photos that you already have that you can just input into the color block here. So we're just going to do that. I think that pink is good. Let's choose a yellow. Maybe the orange could be a little bit brighter. Perfect. So something like this. Now everything is cohesive. And for any specific notes, you can input it here too. How is everyone doing?
I love the theme that you chose. It's so fun.
It's very me. I love these colors. I feel like this sets the overall vibe of the wedding as well, to be very bright and colorful. Hopefully it's very fun. Perfect. Okay, so now I'll be moving into more specific details for the reception and the ceremony. So the reception style here, it's more of think about how you would want the table setup to be. If you prefer to be a cocktail wedding, or is it a formal dinner type of setup? For mine, I was thinking more of rectangular table. Hopefully it's outdoor or very airy type of venue. So here you can do citrus wedding reception. And look for pictures that kind of matches your overall theme and vibe. So this is kind of similar to what I had in mind, but maybe a bit more brighter. We're just going to take a look again. I think this one is perfect. So one long table so everyone can sit together. Here is also an element that you can think if you're doing a micro wedding, which means it's less than 100 or even less than 50. Or are you doing a large wedding that's more than 100, maybe 150, 200, and the table setting can be dependent on that as well. And then the table setting itself, usually I would like to look at right underneath this photo, because sometimes they have the kind of zoom in photo of the table setting that relates to this image. So it's nice to just scroll down, see if there's any detail shots. I think in this case, maybe we'll be looking at something similar to this. For the table settings, I prefer them to be a bit lighter, but still have pop of color to it. So you could do a fun dinner plate or charger plate. Just zoom in a little bit. Something like that. And then special elements. So for the special element, you can always refer back to the accent element and texture we talked about earlier. So this is basically any specific textures that you might like. For mine, since it's a citrus wedding, I think you can always use the citrus as the decoration. So maybe just search for citrus inspired wedding. And elements like this is very fun. So a table number with orange element in the back. This is the type of things that you can incorporate. You can even incorporate it into the table setting as well. I think this is a really good picture. Zoom in slightly. Perfect. Okay, now we talked about reception. Let's move on to the ceremony. So a lot of the time we recommend to use ceremony backdrops, reuse it at the reception. So that could be part of the element that you can think of. Let's see, citrus wedding ceremony. This is perfect. So an arch like this can always be reused behind the head table or even be used as a photo area backdrop. And then 2 large floral arrangement like this can also be reused at the head table as well. So let's see if they have a head table decor that's similar to that. Perfect. So something like this, the 2 arrangement right here can be transferred directly to the head table for the reception. That way it's cost efficient as well. Right. Now to tie everything together, the stationaries. So citrus wedding, stationaries. Something like this, very simple, but still bright. This kind of design you can incorporate into all of the stationaries that you have, which will be the invitation, menu, name cards, table numbers. So you can have the same type of design for all those elements. While I customize this, does anyone have any questions?
Hopefully everyone's busy starting their mood board, perhaps. Again, like, these can change as you go through your wedding planning. So I think it's always great to just start out and plop some images that speaks out to you as you do the searches. Beatrice is asking if they'll be able to get an example of a filled out mood board. We do have the pre-made mood board links where a lot of the images are kind of gathered for you, which is a great starting point if, let's say, one of them has, you know, your same color palette or an image that you like, but not exactly all images speak out to you. Definitely recommend using it as a starting point. And we also do have a mood board library that we will send out via email.
Going back to the mood board. This is a page that you'll be able to do a kind of focus page for the color palette as well as the fonts that you like. So there's lots of fonts on Canva that you could test out like this. So all of these fonts can be incorporated into all the stationery. Same with the colors as well. So I'm just going to change the color to the colors that we've been talking about. Lighter orange, yellow, and maybe light pink. Instead of doing white, we can do cream as well. Even if you like white, you should always specify the type of white that you like. Not everyone likes the very bright white, and even like a very light cream can add different texture on the table as well. So when you're choosing your tablecloth napkin, you can also look into different type of white. And the font that I like is more of this kind of cursive font. So I'm just going to highlight that. Vibrant blue is right. And so here is a example of a stationery design. On Canva, there's also elements that you can look into. So when you click elements and search for specific element, so we have citrus, and when you look at these, you can incorporate it into your stationery designs as well. They have a lot of really great border elements. see if there's one that's, this one's very cute. So we'll use this one. So just resize it to the sign that you have. Something like this. And you can always flip it. So this is the button for duplicate. That will duplicate your design. And there's a little turning button here, so you can flip it. And then make it slightly smaller. And put it at the bottom. I really like the guided line that Canva has. So whenever you move something, if you see the line at the middle here, that means the designs are aligned to each other and everything is centered. So same thing for this one. You can just duplicate this design and then maybe shorten it a little bit. Shorten the other side. Stretch it just a little bit. Something like this. Could be simple. Even if you like fonts like more cursive fonts, please keep in mind that for the detail description in the signs to always use clear fonts that your guests can see, especially when it comes to seating chart and welcome sign, just so they don't have to like squint and figure out what the word is. So this is a sample of finished welcome sign. Any questions so far? I'm just going to go back to the slide to show you how it looks like when it's all finished. So this is the part 1 that we did. And then part 2. So you can see that all the colors are very cohesive and still matches your overall vibe and theme. Like this. And then your signage design. Now, we're basically done with the summary mood board, but you have a assignment. Since at the end of the day, this is a course, we're trying to help you and guide you. So we have created a assignment. Basically, it's a detailed wedding mood board that looks like this. So it lists out each element in more detail and more space for you to input photos. So the overall vibe of the wedding, bride attire, groom attire, hair and makeup. This is also very helpful when it comes to communicating with your vendors. So let's say you want to show your inspiration photo for your hair and makeup artist. You can just send them the mood board instead of describing in words that sometimes you won't be able to. Bridesmaids dresses, groomsmen attire, if you have a ring bearer, stationery as well, signs, cake, which will be very helpful for your cake vendor as well. Bridal party floral, and then specific for the ceremony reception. You can input your venue selections as well, since usually, most likely you'll visit multiple venues, and then maybe you can take pictures of the venue and input it here and then compare to see which one that you like the most. We do have a shot list mood board here as well. So this is basically a overall theme that you can send it to your photographer so they can know what you're looking for when it comes to picture of the bride and groom, or if you want portrait, specific ceremony photos, reception photos. And if there's any reference of the photos that you selected, you can input it here as well. That way they can look back into it. All right. That is the end of our mood board creation. I'm just going to hand it off to Kyra to continue our presentation.
Thank you, Novia. I hope everyone had the chance to get started on their mood board creation. And as I went through the overview of the workshop, we're just gonna finish. Oh, so many factors. Yeah. We're gonna finish off with just touching up on how to communicate with your vendors as well as cost saving tips. So I'm gonna be sharing my screen, Novia. Perfect. Okay. Okay, amazing. Okay, so at this point, hopefully you have a clear vision of your ideal wedding, or at least a starting point, and you want to be able to use that vision board to find the right vendors to bring your dream to life, essentially. So, how to research your vendors would be, first and foremost, do the initial research to determine a realistic budget, because it is the easier task to understand the vision that you want to bring to life, but it's also another task to determine if it's realistic to bring that to life with the budget you have in mind. So ensure you do some initial research. We'll also be sending you a budget planner via email, just so that you can have a research guide while you're researching some general budget ranges as well as cost saving tips online. And another tip, one of my favorite personal tips when you're researching your vendors, is using online forums. So if you're not already part of a Facebook group or Instagram, or maybe you don't use Reddit, I definitely highly suggest you use that. Search up, let's say you're considering a photographer, you can search up their name online just so you can see the past experiences that couples have had with them. Of course, Google review is always there to make it simpler for you as well. But within these forums, it's also such a great use to understand what factors should you consider in terms of, let's say you want to communicate with a videographer and you want to be able to write the ask. You want to be able to ask the right questions. Current brides and grooms to be often share their thoughts, but as well as previous brides and grooms. So please use various platforms to do that research. And then here is a guideline or a template for you to use, just so that you can kind of fill it up and understand a short list of vendors that you might want to reach out to. And when you're reaching out to vendors, try and use specific keywords to find ones that match your style and needs. For example, if you're having an intimate, more micro wedding, search up micro wedding venues Toronto or micro weddings photographer. And then always use the location of your venue or the general location of where you'll be hosting the wedding. Make sure you're contacting vendors that you're genuinely interested in working with after reviewing their portfolio. They typically do ask the same questions, which are very important questions, such as the event date, guest count, event location, and then during your initial email, try and also include what you're looking for in terms of their response. So are you looking for their availability, their pricing, what type of services they provide? And then always, I highly recommend booking a consultation, whether that's through phone or in person, before finalizing their services and booking and doing that initial payment or a deposit. Just because it gives you that personal touch, and it also allows them to explain the services they're able to provide for you and if it aligns with your vision. So here we have a email template that you can use and personalize and modify to your liking, just to make things easier. We're here to make your wedding planning easier. So here it includes the key details that you should be sending to your vendors. And yeah, you can modify it as you like. We will be sending this via email. So now that we've kind of understood how to research and communicate with your vendors, we want to also provide you with some cost-saving tips, just because these have been, I think these details are often asked to wedding specialists, wedding vendors, and it's not often that you understand, or that everybody or anybody understands the difference in pricing in certain elements. For example, if I were to go into a little bit more of the specifics, the cost between like a high centerpiece versus a low centerpiece can be like double or triple the price. So just some cost saving tips for you guys to consider if you are trying to stay within a budget range and you find that to be a little bit more difficult. First and foremost, choose an off-peak date. It definitely, venues do offer better rates if it's, let's say your wedding date is in the non-wedding season. So usually that's like January to March sort of. And perhaps if you're choosing a Friday, so on a weekday, they may be able to offer you a more competitive rate. For all my 2025 or 2026 couples, it's great that you're starting and booking early. So definitely look into it, reach out to your vendors, start early, and ask them about their rates and how they differ now versus if you book at a later time. Another cost-saving tip would be limiting your guest count. Now, not everybody is able to do that, but if you're able to consider a micro wedding or even an elopement, that will obviously make a big difference in the cost. When you're sending out your invitations or maybe an online invitation, it's okay to ask your guests for specific preferences in gifts, so cash gifts or honeymoon funds. There are very, very creative ways to do this. A lot of brides and grooms are able to advise you or give you ideas. So make sure to search up on Facebook or Pinterest on how to do exactly that. We also do provide tips as well. So if you're stuck on how to ask and you need ideas, let us know in the chat and we'll be sure to save your contact. But this is a great way to just know what to expect in terms of after the wedding. And then venue and catering. When you're choosing a venue, if you're still in that stage, I would ask certain questions to your venues or potential locations. First, try to keep both reception and ceremony within one space, because they may be able to offer you a package deal. And also they may be able to offer you a more all-inclusive deal. So perhaps they've worked with certain videographers, decorator, vendors, and those vendors themselves have a certain discount to provide to couples who book within that venue. So those are very, very common in the wedding industry. So ensure that you're asking these questions as you go into your venue visits and ask the venue coordinator. So there are also naturally beautiful venues, meaning like on the right-hand side, there is Bellamy Loft here, which already has the soft beautiful drapes that surrounds the venue, an existing arch and aisle markers. So that's what we mean by choosing venues that are already dressed up and don't need that much management. When you're thinking attire, you can always try shopping sales, or renting or borrowing is also a popular option nowadays. And when you're shopping like a gown or a suit, try to purchase or order one where it requires minimal alterations. Okay, so just a little bit more cost saving tips before we end. There are elements that you can consider when you're choosing flowers and decor. So minimalist approach is getting more trendy, which is favorable for some. So that really just means minimizing decor and not having, a full-on decor. Obviously, that varies based on your preference. Renting is also such a popular option. If you can't tell the difference between faux and fresh, then maybe you are okay to rent. You don't have a preference, and it does save you an immense amount of money. If I were to give you a comparison for like an average pricing, a fresh centerpiece that's tall can cost approximately 300 versus a fresh centerpiece, a faux centerpiece. So artificial centerpiece that's for rent is about 95. So you can see it's triple the price, depending on whether you're open to renting versus purchasing fresh flowers. And then in terms of your invitations and stationery, it's more convenient nowadays to use digital options, so ensure that you're exploring those options. It's also popular to use digital options and then just have like one or just a couple pieces printed for photography purposes and just your shot list, but everything else can be digital. And then using templates that are already available online will save you the custom design fee. And we have that in Plan and Love, so make sure you check that out. We have a lot of free ones as well as some paid ones that might work out for you. And then last but not least is skipping unnecessary. So this, again, varies person to person and also depends on your love story, your unique love story. I would suggest thinking back to events that you might have attended as a guest, thinking about what made that event memorable to you, what made it fun, what made it engaging, and then everything else that you don't quite recall, try and think, is it necessary for me to have that in my wedding? So examples like favors or wedding parties having like large bridal parties, groomsmen, bridesmaids. It can be costly in terms of the expenses with everything being considered. But of course, think about what's more important to you and then kind of work off that. And then just some decor pieces as well. Usually during our consultation, we go through the vital, important pieces, and then the smaller nice to haves would be at a later part. So that's how I would suggest navigating and going through your consultation process, is really telling your vendors what's important to you and then what are the nice to haves. Okay. Perfect. So we covered the cost saving tips. And now before we wrap up and do a Q&A session, your next steps, as Novia mentioned, is to send your detailed mood boards. Once you're done that, of course, you'll have to gather some images, but we are really excited to see all your detailed mood boards, and we'd love for you to send them via our Facebook group, just so you can get some feedback, gain some insights, and any questions that you may have. Please send it over to our Facebook group. If you, Novia or Kyla, if you guys can send the link as well in the chat box so everyone has access to it and can just quickly join it. So yeah, we're gonna be waiting on that from your end. Any questions and answers as well, please ask on the Facebook group. That way everybody benefits from knowing the answers to your questions, and I'm sure everybody will share similar questions just as we had today in the chat box. As promised, we will be sending you more wedding planning resources. So check your email by Tuesday to see all the resources that we have curated for you and that should be beneficial in terms of your wedding planning. So please check your emails, and we hope to see you more in our upcoming workshops. So please subscribe, and we hope you also enjoyed this workshop and it was beneficial for you. And again, the main goal for this workshop is for you to have a clearer vision on your wedding planning, and wedding theme. So here we have some free downloads. Join the club. Again, the link is sent via chat. Right now, we are gonna open up the stage to anybody who may have questions, or if you want to listen into any questions that other people's may have, feel free to stay a little bit longer, but we will be here for about 10 minutes or so. Oops, did I do that? That was so interesting. I'm not sure. Did everybody see that shush emoji? That was oh, let me continue sharing my screen just so everybody can join the membership. If you aren't already subscribed, please save us or send us your email and we'd be happy to send you some resources. Okay, I know that some people did ask if you'll be able to access this workshop as a replay, just in case you need a refresher. We will have a video available, so we will be sending that via email. Please ensure that in case you have not left your email at our event page, to sign up in planandlove.com, or feel free to send it to one of our moderators or my co-host Kyla and Novia. You can send it as a private message and we'll ensure to keep your email on file. Thank you, Amy, for attending. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys have gained great insights and tips throughout this workshop. We'll just continue to wait around and ensure to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Beatrice.
Thank you, ladies. Wow, that's such a great take. No, thank you for joining us, Nafisa. We're so glad you gained some tips. For any helpful questions that we've encountered throughout the workshop, we'll ensure to also post it on Facebook, just in case you guys want to refer back to it at a later date. Make sure to join our Facebook group. Thank you, everybody. I think we'll give it about a couple more minutes till we end the workshop. If in case any questions come up at a later time, even today, feel free to send it to the Facebook group again. Okay. It seems like I'm not getting any more questions, but again, Facebook group is an open platform for anybody who has any questions that may come up. So feel free to direct your questions there. But as of now, we just want to thank you all again for joining us in this workshop. We hope you've gained great insight, and it was such a pleasure to just go through it and provide the information